I want to bring in MS Now's Alex Tabbitt at a diner in Oakland Park, Florida. Jim Messina is former White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Operations under President Obama, campaign manager for Obama's 2012 re-election, and CEO of the Messina Group. Jim, can you sell a tax cut when people are feeling squeezed in their everyday lives, from the gas pump to the grocery store? Do they not get their own bottom lines?
No, you cannot sell a tax cut, especially this one, Chris, where the top 1% got more than the entire rest of the 80% of Americans. That's just not where people are. You know, I saw a recent chart that showed the president's approval rating literally moving up and down in relation to the gas prices. Gas prices are the #1 factor moving voters right now. And so they look at this and, you know, I thought your numbers you just talked about were the most interesting. 70% of voters say their taxes are too high. That number for independent voters is 79%. And so they just don't believe this whole tax cut is making my life better thing, because every day that's not their lived reality. In this logic-free zone we call Washington, D.C., people can, you know, talk on talking points and hope that they can get through to people. But people are living this experience. They're living the fuel prices that you're showing on TV right now. And that's where the majority of voters are so angry at the political establishment.
Let me give you the specific numbers, Jim. The Nonpartisan Tax Foundation estimates that returns could be up to $748 larger than they were at the end of the last tax season. But Stanford economists, at the end of the tax season, but Stanford economists estimate the average American household will spend an additional $776 this year just on gas. So more money on gas than is the extra money they'll get in their tax return. Trump's gamble maybe seems to be, yeah, but when they see that tax return and they see they're getting more money than they did last year, that's going to help me. Could he be right?
He's wrong, and I've lived experience here. In 2009, 2010, we did a tax cut trying to help average Americans with Barack Obama, and it was a very important and very good tax cut that they needed at the time. But it did us no political good, because what they saw every day was how much their grocery prices were, how much their gas prices were. People live in today. The average swing voter thinks about politics only 4 minutes a week, and they think about it in very clear economic terms. I promise you, because I lived this, Chris, Trump's not going to get any credit for his tax cut, because first of all, it only helped the wrong people. And second of all, people just don't believe it when they're seeing the inflation numbers, when they're seeing the gas prices that you just talked about.
The president has repeatedly promised major tax relief. I want to show you just some instances in the past month.
Already 45% of filers have taken advantage of our new tax provisions, with an average refund so far of almost $5,000, a record.
They are getting so much more money than they thought. That's from the great big beautiful bill. We've had more good press for a change, having to do with the fact that people are receiving more money from their tax refunds than they ever thought possible.
Alex, what are you hearing from workers where you are? Are they feeling tax relief?
We're hearing that it's a game changer right now, and it's much needed relief given the skyrocketing costs at the gas pump, when it comes to housing costs, when it comes to grocery costs. We talked to two waitresses here at this iconic diner, Peter Pan's Diner in Oakland Park, Florida. These two women, Hope and Andrea, have more than 60 years of experience in the service industry combined, and this is what they had to tell me about what this no tax on tips policy is doing for them.
It's made a very big difference in my life. I've added a lot of money for me. I was able to send my grandson some money.
The gas is what, that's crucial. You pay a lot of money to get from one place to the next. And, it keeps going up. And it's like, but then here I am. I have a break on my tips, on my tax at the end of the year. So, as long as you can budget it, then it's profitable for some of us.
Now, who exactly is covered by no tax on tips? That was an outstanding question that the IRS recently just released some guidance on. So let's break into it. There's about 8 different buckets: beverage and food service workers, or waitresses like the ones you just heard from; entertainment and event workers, so musicians, DJs; hospitality and guest services, so concierge, housekeeping staff, or bellhops, for example; home services, so repair workers and groundskeepers; personal services like event planners, photographers; personal appearance and wellness workers, so hair and makeup artists, for example; recreation and instruction, meaning tour guides or golf caddies, for example; and finally, transportation and delivery workers, so Uber and Lyft drivers. Those are the people who will benefit from no tax on tips. Chris?
Thank you for that. So Jim, look, even with that long list, my question is no tax on tips a winning message, or at least in terms of, say, the midterms? Is that a way too narrow for most voters?
I think it's too narrow. I think it's good, and I think your reporter just laid out some of the things. No tax on tips have been a bipartisan issue for a very long time, so it's good. But voters, to the one waitress who you showed, she talked about the gas pumps. She talked about the grocery prices, and that's what a majority of Americans feel. You can have all the categories of tipped workers you want, but 100% of workers feel gas prices, they feel grocery prices, and that's what really moves the political dial in this election year. We're 200 days out, Chris, and people are feeling this at the pump and at the grocery store every single day.